Hello,
Good morning. I'm Jen,
I'm Kimberly, and this
and
is
this
That
is that
Vegan Morning
vegan
Show.
morning show. Oh, we did it really coordinated that
We
time.
did. That was good.
This is our 19th episode, I
No
noticed.
way.
Yeah, because I was looking at our rundown this morning, just looking at the links of the topics we're going to talk about today. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my God, this is our 19th episode.
Wow. That's that's incredible.
I know. Look at us. We're doing it.
Yeah, we are. Oh my gosh, how fun. And like we've covered so many really interesting things in this short period of time. Uh Yay, go us.
Go us. Yes. And we started having guests. And we've had 3 guests, and we're having a
Yeah.
guest next week, which is going to be an amazing discussion
Mhm.
with Woodstock Farm Sanctuary. So I can't wait to have that conversation. Anna is really, really great. I had her on my channel. But before we jump into our topic, Kimberly, how was your weekend? I know you had some exciting things going on.
I did. My weekend was so great. Saturday morning, I led a meditation at Ethos Farm to Health in Long Valley, New Jersey, and it was amazing. There was a nice sized group, and we sat in. So it's a huge farm, and we sat kind of near the big house, but there's like giant trees around us and birds, but you could hear kind of the road outside the farm as well. But during the meditation, we turned the sound of the cars into ocean waves. So
Oh, wow. That's so
yeah, so that made
nice.
it really nice. And it was just, I really had so much fun leading it. We got grounded, we did a loving kindness meditation, and then we spent the rest of the time just tuning into the nature around us. So we listened to the birds, and I fancy myself an amateur birder. So when I recognized the bird calls, I was like, oh, there's a cardinal. I hear a mourning dove. And I don't know if the meditators appreciated that, but I was having a good time with it. And we felt the breeze on our skin and smelled the soil and the grass and the trees. And it's just such a magical place to be. And I can't wait for you to be there on Friday and
I can't
experience.
wait
It's
either.
so
I'm so
great.
excited. We get to hang out in person, which is always
Yes.
exciting. We don't we don't live that far from each other, but we don't live like it's almost like a 2-hour drive. So it's like, if closer, I would have been at that meditation happily. The energy I know would have been amazing. Your online meditations are amazing.
Thank
So
you.
you don't have to be in New Jersey to go to those. So anyone
That's
watching, if
true.
you need to be grounded and be in the amazing energy of Kimberly, you should go check those
Oh,
out.
thank you. How was your weekend?
My weekend, let's see, we did some rearranging of workspace Thursday night and part of Friday. So kind of continued on a little bit of that. My husband and I went to a park. I'm looking it up right now because I completely forgot the name of it. It's funny. We live in the Hudson Valley. There's like so many state parks here that you can always find something you didn't even know existed nearby.
Hmm.
It's called Minnewaska State Park Preserve. It was like 15 minutes from New Paltz. So we went to our favorite salad place. There's other good vegan places in New Paltz, but we're people of a certain age. We're trying to be healthy. So
Gotta eat a salad.
and you're a certain age when you have a favorite salad place. Like no one else's
That's the
salads
truth.
compare to their salads. So we started our day with a healthy salad and did like 5 miles of hiking around. This place had a
Nice.
waterfall and a pretty lake. And then Sunday was just catching up with stuff at home. And here I am now with you.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, the photos that you sent from your hike were gorgeous. What a
Hey,
lovely place.
it was lovely. Definitely a very grounding place to be. And so, because sometimes we'll find like places to go hiking and it ends up not being so big. And we're like, all right, we're done now. An hour later, what are we gonna do for the rest of the day? Like, we realized we had to like do a part two to like go to the other side of the lake, because we
Oh,
did like
nice.
the area around the waterfall. That was a whole amount of time. And then
Hmm.
just getting to the lake and walking by the lake. We saw a water snake too. By the
Oh,
time it
neat.
swam by, I wasn't able to get it, but I've never seen a live water snake before. So that was also interesting.
Oh, cool. Ah, nature is the best.
It is, and that's why we're vegans, because we
Yes,
respect all of nature.
that's right. Including the snakes, of course.
Exactly. They're all important. So yeah, I'm excited about, we've been talking about this topic for a few weeks now, I
Hmm.
think. Um, you had sent me an article about a change that is being made in Switzerland. It started July 1st,
Hmm.
about labeling products that have animals in it. And I don't know, do you think one of us should read like just a little bit about the article and then talk about it? Or do you
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
just share some of the highlights?
No, sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, let me pull it up right here. So, Swiss food labels must declare animal suffering. So, and this is starting July 1st. Food labels in Switzerland will have to disclose whether products of animal origin involve painful practices. The Swiss federal government has approved a series of ordinances requiring the labeling of meat, eggs, and foie gras, which, by the way, if no one knows what foie gras is, it's the fatty livers of ducks and geese. And I was reading about that a little bit and how they go through a torturous process to
Hmm.
get fattened up. So, side note, more horrible things. And it's another example, right? Giving something another name so you don't know what it really is, right?
Yep.
But that's a whole other side topic. Anyway, I digress. Consumers purchasing products such as meat, milk, or eggs will receive clear information about how animals were treated during production. Labels must now indicate whether any painful procedures were carried out without anesthesia or stunning, according to a government statement published on Wednesday. Wednesday at the time of when this article came out. Examples of such practices include castration or dehorning of cattle without anesthetic and castration, tail docking or teeth clipping for pigs without pain relief. The same applies to the cutting of frogs' legs without an anesthetic. And then there's also a foie gras declaration included. So liver and meat from force-fed geese and ducks must also be labeled accordingly. While force feeding has been banned in Switzerland for more than 40 years, the practice is still legal in other countries. The move is part of the government's response to a popular initiative aiming to ban foie gras imports, which the Swiss government does not support. The labeling obligation applies to all establishments offering such products, including restaurants, small businesses, and retail outlets. Under self-monitoring rules, these businesses must determine whether their goods fall under the declaration requirement. By mandating these disclosures, the Swiss government says it is increasing transparency for customers, enabling them to make informed purchases. A 2-year transition period has been granted to implement the changes. And then the article goes on further about fur restrictions being tightened as well, and having more transparency with all of that. So, Kimberly, what do you think of all of that? Well, you share the article with me. I have a lot to say about it, but
Yeah.
you go first.
Um, so I think that it's a move in the right direction. And I even looked up like in the US, where is foie gras banned? And it's only banned in California. New York had
Really?
tried to ban it, and then I saw as of 2024 that it was not banned. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, like the foie gras, I wonder how will they label that? Do they just have to say this duck or goose was force fed, or do they need to explain what that means. Like what that means is a tube is put down the duck or goose's throat and food is just like sent down there and they can aspirate, they can choke on it, they can die from this. And like this is how they get that fatty liver so quickly. But so I'm curious as to like how will they label that? Will it be just a simple, because if you say this goose or duck was force fed, that's horrific. But I think it's easy for people who want to eat it anyway to kind of not allow that picture fully into their minds. So I'm wondering how effective it will be for foie gras. With the other animals, I saw some photos, and I'm assuming they're AI generated, but it's like, as examples of what people could expect to see on the labels. And it was things like, this cow was castrated without anesthetic, or and then like I've seen video of pigs being castrated when they do it as babies, and they use their hands and just like rip them out.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, and so it's like how can we show the horrors in words so that people will pick up this neatly packaged pink or white piece of flesh and really understand what has happened to that animal to become this little piece of something that you can completely separate from who it had belonged to.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, a lot of things. First, to circle back to the foie gras, like that's something I never thought much about. I mean, I never ate it before I was vegan. Never, I've heard of it like on the Food Network.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, it's like force fed doesn't sound pleasant, but it still doesn't sound as bad as they've had a tube shoved down their throat and they're choking and gagging. Like, right? So I feel like
Mhm.
there needs to be maybe a few extra words put in with
Yeah.
that because again, if you're someone who loves foie gras and you don't want to give it up, or you're uncomfortable about thinking about these things, so you don't want to think about them, more of a reason to put this labeling on.
Yeah.
Um, right? Like, I feel like it would need to have more of a depiction. When I was reading this article, what also came to mind was about the cigarette industry. Because, like, in Canada, for example, and some other countries, I jotted them down, like Canada, Australia, Brazil, and Singapore are some, and there's a lot of other countries too, but that's just like some examples of showing pictures on cigarette
Mm.
boxes
Yeah.
of what can happen to your health when you are smoking. And then Canada added something new recently where on each cigarette is going to have the poison in every puff printed on each cigarette now. And they're the first country to have a message printed on an individual cigarette. So it made me think about this, right? When it comes to human bodies, right? There's these disclosures on the health implications that can happen when you do smoking. Same thing with alcohol, right? There's certain like warnings about that, and there could be safety, too, that can be
Mhm.
impacted from alcohol. But when it comes to the well-being and welfare of animals, there's this mixed messaging, right? Like again, when it comes to dogs and cats, and I saw something recently online. I don't even remember what it was. I can't remember what it was, but it was like something where people were outraged about how an animal was treated. But again, when you look at how, the animals that are considered normal food for humans consumption, people
Mhm.
don't think twice about it.
Right.
So these are some of the things that came to my mind. I think it's a push in the right direction. I would like to see other countries. People should be informed where their
Mhm.
food's coming from. Kind of like with organic, right? If you want your food to be labeled organic, or if you want organic food, there's going to be food that's labeled organic. So I feel like we should always know where our food's coming from. And if you're someone who eats meat, you should know what's happening with that. And if that makes you uncomfortable knowing that
Mhm.
information, then maybe you should check in with that discomfort. So
Yes.
those are some of my thoughts that came up.
I agree with that 100%. And just want to say a good morning to Richard. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Richard. Nice to see you.
Um, yeah, I do like the idea of people starting to understand where, like, what's happening to get
Mhm.
their food from the living, sentient being to, like I said, those neatly packaged pieces of their bodies, to have them labeled with what they've been through. um, I think is a good step. I like your idea though when you brought up the cigarette packages and how in certain countries, it, like here in the US, it's just a warning. US Surgeon General says smoking is bad for your health or something very simple
Mhm.
like that. But with in other countries, they have photos of like lungs, what the lungs look like after years of smoking, and um, what that can do to your body. So, yeah, like what if we had photos of slaughterhouses on on the packages of meat? So it tells you what they've been through, and then just a little photo of what that looks like. I wonder how many more people would question what they're doing. Of course, there will be people who will feel uncomfortable and then they'll be mad about it and then they'll blame it
Right.
on vegans, and they'll, oh, that's not true. That doesn't happen. Or they don't care and they'll get really like gross about it and they'll be like, oh, I'll eat twice as much just to make you mad,
Oh
and I
yeah.
don't care about the
I'm gonna
photos.
I'm gonna eat just as much. I'm gonna
Yeah,
eat your portion, right?
exactly. I
I've
know.
heard that one before.
Me too. Another thing I thought was interesting is that they've decided, at least for now, I guess, that it'll be a self-monitoring system. So these restaurants and packaging plants and stuff, they have to decide if what they're serving or selling fits within. And if I misunderstood that and you got a different idea from it, let me know. But that, even if they have to decide, does it fit within the expectations of this new requirement? And I wonder what that will that mean, that maybe we'll end up with some more vegan restaurants in Switzerland, because restaurant owners that maybe are like aware of what's happening but not really tuned into it, now that they have to have it printed on
Mhm.
their menus, like, will that make them go, maybe we could shift away from this? I don't know. That'd be cool though.
It would be. You bring up a really good point, and this is still very new, right? Like, so this
Mhm.
just got put into effect July 1st, which I can't believe
Yeah,
we're almost into August already. I
I
don't
know.
even I don't know where this summer went. Um, it's almost pumpkin spice season. Uh,
But not at Starbucks, because that one is not vegan.
no, it's not, but at my house, it'll be pumpkin spice season.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think it's going to take a little bit of time, right, to really know how this is going to impact. Like the soonest maybe they'll be able to get some of an assessment is probably 6 months from now. They might
Mhm.
be able to get a little bit of an idea of where things are starting to move. Definitely, and there's a 2-year grace period, right? So within a couple of years of this, they'll certainly have more information on the impact. It's going to take time, right? We're undoing systems that have been in
Mhm.
place for a really long time. And so as vegans, we're going to have to be patient, which can be
Always.
hard. But I like the fact that they're doing this in Switzerland, because I feel like they're setting an example for other countries on what to do. And if anything, it's making people pause, think, and reflect about their food choices. It's going to make restaurants pause, think, and reflect about the food that they're serving people, right? So before I was vegan, I just went about my life not thinking too much about it. We've talked a lot about cognitive dissonance. And then as a vegan, my cognitive dissonance has, like, the longer I've been vegan, shifts even more. Like, when I first became vegan, I've talked about this before, I still made non-vegan food for my family, but then it hit a point where I couldn't even do that anymore. It was just too much. Like, the most I'll do if I'm doing grocery shopping for the family, I'll pick up, the non-vegan stuff. But because I'm vegan, there's really not even that much of that anymore in here. It's just a small amount. And so that's just an example of just how things have changed over the 8 years that I've been vegan. And because I'm the cook at the house, if other people want meat, they have to make it. And if they're, don't feel like cooking, well, I guess you got to eat vegan food, right?
That's right.
So there you go. So
Yeah.
it took time to make these changes. But in the time that I've been vegan, I've seen so many changes. Like, I remember, like, even 6 years ago, I couldn't just go into a regular grocery store and find a huge selection of non-vegan ice cream or have a few varieties of vegan cheese. Like, I would have to go to a specialty store for these things. Now you can walk into Walmart, Target, or any other main chain of places, and there's always those things available now.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show how things have really shifted in the span of time that I've been a vegan. So this looks like this is planting the seeds for another wave of change.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And I don't know if their intention is just to try to make it less, to make there be less suffering in the process of creating animal-based foods. But maybe the awareness enough is to we'll start upping the number of vegans, and who knows what kind of change we can make the larger our movement gets.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, if you can't look at where your food came from, like at an apple orchard, right? You can pick, you can grow if you can't see where it was before it ended up on your plate, then maybe it's not something you'd want to be eating.
Right.
So that's what I have to say on that.
That is excellent. And I agree.
Do you want to switch gears to the other? I can't believe it's like 7:23 already.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yes.
Where did the morning go? So there was another article that had popped up it was like around July 4th, which in the US is a big barbecue weekend. And CNN had a post about, and this isn't really anything new, but there's no safe amount of processed meat to eat according to new research. And I mean, it pretty much doesn't say anything too different. But they talked about some of the highlights. They talk about, sugar, sweetened beverages, and processed meats such as sausages, bacon, and salami and burgers can cause inflammation, which plays a big part in chronic disease. And they also talk about, nitrates, which, are carcinogenic, and just trans fatty acids, reduce levels of good cholesterol and increase the bad. And so some of those things are not really new, but I think it's just like a reminder of, again, people are like, well, I just had, hot dogs in the summer, right? But as you get older, that there's that buildup in your body. And it's also, how you're taking care of the body the rest of the time. But like, people, I felt like this tied in with this discussion because, again, labeling, right? I feel like these kinds of labels for health, if we're labeling cigarettes, about the health risks, we should be labeling hot dogs and other processed meats to, again, help people think about it more about what they're putting in their bodies. And again, there's always that accusation, well, vegan food's not healthy. You eat Beyond Burgers or whatever, whatever food, brand
Mhm.
has like some type of vegan meat um, substitute. But, and yeah, they're not healthy to eat all the time, but they don't have the same impact on your body as like a hot dog made from you know, there's a lot of gross things in hot dogs, so we won't get into that. But all the animal parts that go in there, right? And then you're having all these other additives and all these other things that just really are not good for you. Again, I feel like the next time someone gives me a hard time about a processed veggie burger, I'll send them this article.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah,
where
and
do you really?
processed meat has been a type 1 carcinogen since 2015.
Yeah.
So, like you said, this is not new, but it seems like people need to be reminded, which I'm guessing, that's why they keep doing the studies and these articles keep coming out, as people keep eating it, and it's contributing to cancer, to type 2 diabetes, to
Heart
heart
disease.
disease,
Yeah.
and it's just like, and it's not even, it's processed, and then, like you said, all these other additives are put in there, and then we do hear like, "Oh, well, vegans eat processed food too," and like you were saying, there's a difference, and I think we get so hung up on that word processed, and now there's a new phrase called ultra processed, and that
Mm.
is, supposed to cover all of to include the Beyond Burgers in addition to all of the processed meats and stuff. Because when we think about a lot of the things that we eat that are healthy, a loaf of sourdough bread is technically processed because the flour is not in its whole form.
Right.
Drinking coffee, that's technically processed because the beans, are ground and then turned into a liquid, that, and so not turned into a liquid, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so we're eating and drinking processed things all the time. But yeah, the difference is that with these processed meats having, like, whatever it does, the processing, whatever it does to the animal flesh, and then all of the different stuff like nitrates and whatever added in, like that seems to be like an anti-health bomb, if nothing else,
Yeah.
and like we already have so many things in our environment, and people who eat animals, just in eating not so processed animal flesh, like, you're facing so many health risks that way too. Like, why would you add to it by eating hot dogs and cold cuts, as they call them, right? Deli meats and stuff. And I
Mhm.
don't know. It seems like an easy thing. And when I ate animals, I was a huge fan of sandwiches, and I ate tons of deli meats, turkeys and cheese all the time. But I still think that it's like an easy thing to be like, you know what, I think my health
Mhm.
means a little bit more than like the flavor of a turkey sandwich. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you know what? And then one of the things I've learned since being vegan, it's about flavors and textures. So you can still have a tasty sandwich with
Mhm.
some kind of plant protein that is not ultra processed, right? And it can still satisfy cravings, right? Like there's so
Mhm.
many amazing things. Something I want to try, maybe I'll try that. I've seen people taking tofu and making their own cold cuts in the oven and it's something
Yeah.
that I want to try myself, because if you slice it really, really thin and you soak it in some like soy sauce or coconut aminos and some smoked paprika and other seasonings, and you marinate it and then you bake it in the oven, it's going to have those same like textures. I think I'm going to try
Mm.
this soon, because
Yeah.
right, because it's nice to sometimes have these things And with a little bit of preparation, you can have a healthier type of cold cut for yourself. That again, it's all about the flavors and textures. And as vegans, we know you can have the same, it's about the seasonings and the marinades, really, that is what connects us to the foods that we love to enjoy.
Mhm. Yeah. And by the way, you can make hot dogs out of carrots.
Yeah. I've always wanted to try that. We talked about that. Was that? I think we spoke about
Memorial
that.
Day.
Yeah, I think it was Memorial
Yeah.
Day. Yeah. I don't know where the summer went. But I always wanted to make the carrot dogs and I haven't done that. I've made like smoked salmon substitute with carrots and put it
Nice.
on a bagel, and that was really good. Again, you can make things have similar flavor and texture. And if you have it mixed with other things,
Mhm.
it's going to make your brain think that you're having that type of
Yeah.
thing. Even though I'm at this point in my life, I don't want to pretend I'm having salmon because that's
Right.
just but
Yeah, you do hit a point where that stuff it just becomes like not food, you
right.
know?
You think too much about it. And so and then,
Mhm.
when you start going grocery shopping and you walk by like the seafood or the
Mm.
meats, you just see a graveyard. Or, I always
Yeah.
feel bad for the lobsters that are in the
Yeah.
tank, right? And
Yeah.
because you're thinking about the fate that's going to happen to them. And they're
Mhm.
not, and while they're waiting around, like they're just shoved in this cramped up tank,
Yeah.
right? It's
They are
I feel
suffering
like
right
that's
there in
one
front
thing,
of you.
maybe we haven't talked about lobsters. I feel like that's that might be something to look into for a future topic on that whole.
Mhm.
I mean, we've
Yeah.
dabbled, we have touched on seafood before, but I feel
Right.
like, with all of this stuff, there's so many levels and layers that we can
Mhm.
talk about, which is why you and I are here to
Yep.
talk about all these things and
That's
bring
right.
awareness wherever we go.
Absolutely.
Which I'm looking at the time, speaking of awareness, and we're out of time.
We are.
This went quick. It always goes by quick,
It
but it went
always
really quick.
does. But one day we'll do this for hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week.
I can't wait for that time. But we get to hang out in person on Friday, so maybe we can
Yeah,
make some little bonus video or something, and
for
we'll
sure.
share our adventure.
Yes. All right. Good stuff. So if you're watching the replay, of course, let us know you're watching the replay, where you're watching from, and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, sounds good.
Oh,
And what's up?
we've got a good question here from Richard. As a non-vegan, if I'm having folks over and some are vegan, why do I need to have a separate menu? Ah, that's a good one. And I will offer a very quick response. And I think it's something that we should mark down and address like as a topic on an upcoming show. Because I think we could get into it a lot better. But I will say very quickly that the difference is that non-vegans don't have an ethical aversion to eating vegan food, and
Mhm.
vegans have an ethical aversion to eating animals. And so that's my quick answer. Jen, what's your quick answer?
And to add to your quick answer, my part two to the quick answer is, yeah, the food that vegans eat, non-vegans can also eat. So
Yep.
it just makes it easier. But that's a really great question, Richard. And I think you just inspired a future episode because I feel like we could just
Absolutely.
talk about that all morning.
Yes.
Thanks for inspiring us.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
if you're watching the replay, thanks for tuning in. We would love to hear from you. Put your questions or comments below, and me and Kimberly will respond as soon as our busy schedules allow us to.
That's right. Yep, but thank you. Thanks for being here, Richard. Thanks for the great question. And you know
Definitely.
what? If you have an answer for Richard, a kind one, of course, we'll always be nice to each other as we're interacting in the comments. Please share your thoughts. How do you handle a situation like that? And we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Yeah, definitely. And if there's a No, and if you have any show ideas for us, if there's a topic you would love to see me and Kimberly cover more in depth, let us know and we will
Yeah,
be happy to check it out.
absolutely.
All right. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful week and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.